So I'd like to also thank Jack for being with us. CMB, thank you so much for coming. And this way we can have a real Chinese leasing panel with key players in the industry. And of course, Christoforos is our panel moderator, and we have Nick Daskalakis. Everybody knows Nick and Smarine. They are the contact with the Chinese leasing, so thank you for being with us.
Hello, everyone. Nicolas has been very gracious enough to make the introductions. But I should also say that we are very fortunate today because we see a number of prominent people coming from Asia. And it's a big surprise that, I just followed the presentations on Chinese leasing, and we see the impact that Chinese leasing has had in the Greek market the past three years. I know that this is the last conference organized by Capital Link in this decade, and they also have another conference in October. And if you compare what is being discussed in this conference compared to what was discussed in the first conference at the beginning of the decade, when everybody was talking about the credit crunch and they were expecting the aftermath of the credit crunch, and you had major banking players confirming to the ship owners, don't worry, we are here for the long run. We saw a number of prominent members of the banking community departing from the shipping sector. And now we are very fortunate to have our friends from Asia covering considerably the funding gap. When I went to Asia in 2015, I was asking the Chinese leasing people, why haven't you done deals in the Greek shipping market? And they said, wait. 3 or 4 years later, we see them all here, and I can witness, and other people in this room can confirm that a number of transactions have been completed in the past 3 years. So it's very exciting news for the local shipping community. The important question now, however, is to ask my friends here, what do they expect for 2019? Will the same pace continue in terms of growth? Are they going to slow down? And I would like to ask Mr. Chi from Bocomm first. What's Bocomm's plan for 2019?
Thanks for the question. Actually, I believe every year we should keep a very normal target for our shipping finance because we want a health market. So our top management never give us a very high target. That means we were not forced to make drawdown during the year. So we would not encourage the speculations, and we would only to satisfy the real demand for financing. And I believe this year we would keep the same pace as last year, and to support the ship owners with the real demand. Thanks.
In terms of budget, is it similar to last year? Is there any plan to grow it, or is it?
It would depend on the market. I believe you could say there are not so many new orders from the shipyard, and in the market, we could only find a lot of sale and leaseback opportunities. So the target for us of this year is similar as last year.
Okay. Jack, what's your plan for 2019?
Yes, some of my clients were interested of our budget for this year. So they asked me, this year's plan will be conservative or aggressive? I will not say for aggressive or conservative. I would say we will keep very stable and maybe reasonable growth in this year's theme. But we particularly we are focused on the Greek market because there a lot of activities of new buildings and SMPs activities here. So Greek market definitely is our important market. So we will keep a stable growth here. Thank you.
Are you changing? Will you continue to offer both operating leases and financial leases, or are you keen to focus mostly on operating leases, or are you keen, to introduce something new in terms of structure? Jack?
Yes, in terms of operating or financial or leasing structure, this is kind of accounting terms for the different structure. It's not legal terms. There's no legal difference. That means after the financial period, we provide the option or obligation to our clients. So we are flexible to do that both. And for the new structures, we are looking at to develop to maybe like JV or some new structure partnership our clients, partnership with the traditional ship owners to find good opportunities to acquire new tonnages, to see if we can share the upside profits. That we also can consider it. Thank you.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Nick, I think you are speaking for everyone else who is not on the panel, because you've been fortunate enough to, be involved in deals with other leasing companies. What is the general picture on the Chinese leasing space for 2019? Do you expect the same? Do you expect growth, or do you expect a bit more conservative?
Thank you, Christopher. We've seen, we are witnessing a steady growth, so the appetite remains the same, just like the last couple of years. We wouldn't also classify it as aggressive, but I think that's a more healthy attitude. We wouldn't see, let's say, like a bubble of oversupply, and actually I'd like to confirm that we have not witnessed that as well. So it's not easy money, let's say, to play along with the guys that are there, for the speculative orders. So to have a steady growth that is there for the good names with a really good reputation and a vision on what they are doing, I think it's a very healthy thing to witness. And I'm glad to confirm that from all the big, let's say, lessors in the market.
Okay. The other development which I've seen personally, and I'm sure that you have seen as well, is that at the initial stage of interest by the Chinese leasing companies in this sector, I think they were all contemplating entering into transactions with the top-tier names. Now we see that this is changing, and the Chinese leasing houses are willing to speak to everyone who potentially has a good, plan and also a reasonable credit. Is your understanding that this is the case as well?
This is the case. This is something that we're contemplating, that it was a matter of time to happen. It's happening. I think everybody realized the fact that there are very good, reputable names in what we call the mid-size sector, where the fleet number, let's say, might not be, let's say, over 20 ships, but hovers around 10 to 20 ships, yet it has all the credentials of a great shipping company. And I think we're witnessing now all these, big lessors now actually focusing on this segment of the market as well. There's great business to be done there as well.
Jack, do you agree with this statement? No?
Yes, I fully agree. But I think there are some top-tier brands, but there are no top-tier or second-tier or third-tier of clients. All of clients, we are very valued. All of them are our top-tier clients. So the sizable don't mean profitable. I think the different type of clients with different risk, and also with different finance pricing. So what we are trying to do just to match the risk and the pricing. So some boutique owners still have very good deal, and maybe we will feel very successful after we financed these boutique ship owners, and they grow up and they acquired very good assets and to grab very good time. So that's maybe the real success. Thank you.
So I guess that this is why the Greek market is very interesting, because
Yes.
There are ship owners who own 150 ships, but there are very good ship owners who might own 5 ships. Mr. Shi, do you also agree with that approach?
Yeah. I quite agree with Jack. For most of our leasing companies, we would maybe pay much attention to the cash flow of the project, not the size of the clients. Yeah, of course, the size is maybe one of the most important factors to us, because we only have 20 people in our shipping team, and the volume of our shipping finance is almost $9 billion. So we should do something more efficient.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In terms of structuring, Jack mentioned earlier that that Chinese leasing companies are thinking about any upside in terms of sharing of profit, and it is quite interesting, because what we've seen is that Chinese leasing companies are quite creative. They are willing to offer equity within the lease, but they're also willing to offer equity through entering into joint ventures. The question that I would like to ask Nick is whether he has seen an increase in these transactions, and do you think that this is important, given that the Greeks are very talented in asset play?
I think the Chinese are very smart to part with the ones, let's say, that are experts in the field. So we've seen an increased activity on those JV transactions, or let's say leases that the profit share is also involved. We've seen also the increase in interest on operating leases. And we've seen a lot of creativity that we haven't witnessed in the past from the Western banks. I think there's some projects that are now in the making that would include, let's say, profit-sharing schemes and an operating aspect that previously was not, let's say, considered in the initial stage of leasing. So it's evolving, it's becoming more sexy, more sophisticated, and provides, let's say, flexible solutions that can help towards directions to increase a fleet.
Thank you. Jack, you were, yeah.
Yes, I agree with Lick. So yes, as you may know, there may be one trend. Some of the cargo owners or some of the traders directly to approach Chinese leasing firms to think if we can do the place new building orders or acquire the tonnage to find a new structure to do the shipping business. But from our view, we still are very focused more on traditional ship owners. We think we are basically still as a financial fund provider, so we do not have capacity for management of these vessels. We do not have technical capacities, abilities. So we might focus on more with finance side, but we are open to discuss the new structure, and also to see if because especially in the Greek market, we believe our Greek clients, they have more of the time sense, and also have a very good sense on choose good asset. So we definitely partnership with the traditional ship owners to do this kind of new structure. Thank you.
Can I ask you all three another question, which is also relevant to structuring? Do you think Chinese leasing companies could support good and solid Greek owners in acquiring distressed assets from Western banks and structuring deals such that they would support the ship owner to operate and also acquire such assets from the Western banks?
Absolutely, it's already happening. We've assisted on a number of transactions where distressed assets were acquired with the support of Chinese lessors. It's something that we expect to happen not only with Western but maybe with Eastern assets. The asset is the asset. You have the expertise and you have built the rapport and the good relations with the Chinese bank. You will see that it's relationship driven. I mean, the main thing, it's just like with the Western banks when we initiated the transaction here, they're relationship driven. So if you build the trust, they will be there also to support expansion towards, let's say, straightforward assets as well as distressed assets or even distressed loans. So yeah, the appetite is there. You just need the trust. You need to build the relationship, and there are a number of ways that you could be assisted from Chinese lessors in that sense, and it has already taken place.
Yes, I do think that I agree with Nick. Yes, and also some of the recently some deals approach us Some of our clients want to take some deals from auction. We still also are interested if the price were attractive, if the deal makes sense. We definitely want to help our clients to do this kind of distressed assets from European banks. And also, we also have many cooperation with European banks. We definitely very happy to help the European banks to do this kind of deal structure for distressed assets.
I believe maybe for Bocomm Leasing from 2014, we began to buy some assets from the European banks, and I believe it's just because of the strict regulation on the European banks. Some of them, they really need the support from other financial institutions. So I think that's a win-win situation for both us and the European bank and the local ship owners. Thank you.
Thank you. Now the good news of the day is that what we've seen is that the pricing in your products has dropped compared to what was offered in 2014. At the beginning, when the spoiled good credits of the world, they were offered pricings which weren't competitive against international banks. Now we've seen the pricing dropping, and in some cases it's even on a par or even below what a traditional Western bank can offer. Do you think that this is, first of all, can you confirm whether this is true, whether this pattern will continue, or do you think that we've reached their bottom? And anyone who wants to?
Yes, I think most of the Chinese leasing firms have built up their portfolio. So for us, we obtained independent rating from international rating institutions for ourselves. So that definitely helps us to obtain very competitive funding cost. So and also for our bank, so we just released our bank result for last year. The bank performed quite very well for last year. So we ranked many top ones in China in terms of ROE, ROA, and ROC, and the non-performance ratio. So that also definitely helps us to get a better performance in capital markets. So maybe they can raise better terms from the funding cost. So we can provide the better terms to our clients. So I think so far the portfolio of most Chinese leasing firms is very healthy. So this is good news for capital market. So they can provide more funds to us, and we can bridge these funds to our ship owners. Definitely, we wanted to keep the pricing sharpened, so provide more and more cheap funds to our ship, but should be very healthy.
Mr. Chi.
In order to provide the most favorite structure to our clients, I believe for the Chinese leasing companies, we have done a lot. For example, to get the rating from the international rating companies, and to issue the bond in the market, and especially for us, we have the plan to be listed in the stock market this year, just in order to raise the cheaper money for our clients.
So I guess that the pricing will drop. Nick?
Well, pricing is always a sensitive issue, especially for ship owners. I'm happy to confirm that it has drastically reduced for the last 4 years. And that's a combination of two events. First, the Chinese lessors became comfortable with the names, with the exposure. They have firm focus on the Greek clients. And secondly, those clients, let's say that they had all the credentials in the market. Everybody knew, for example, their credit strength and their heritage and the technical know-how. They created those legal structures, those holding companies that they could demonstrate that and could appreciate, let's say, the best from the leasing structures. So it needs both to tango, and both of them, I think, converge to a point that we could exploit the best pricing from the leasing structures. So I think for long tenors, for big bank solutions, big balloons, huge new building projects, capital-intensive projects, Chinese leasing is an exceptional product. And and on the other hand, pricing is not that, let's say that, as I said earlier on, creates the fear that it will create also, an oversupply bubble. We are not seeing, let's say, crazy numbers that could create distortions in one way or the other. Ask me, of course, after 6 months, because it's always thematically interesting to see every quarter or every 6 months how the landscape changes. But for the last, let's say, 4 years, we've seen very thematically, this pricing coming down.
Okay, but of course, action brings reaction, and we've also seen banks. I'm not sure whether it's a matter of reaction to the Chinese leasing community storming into the global shipping sector, but we've also seen the banks also dropping their pricing, offering higher leverage, at least to the blue chip owners. Nick, have you seen that too? Or?
This is very true. This is very true. For the last quarter, we've seen very, very competitive pricing from European banks. And I'm not sure whether it's reaction or a proactive measure ahead of stricter regulatory requirements. Everybody's, so far has been focusing on those names, let's say, that they command the best terms in the market. And we expect that to stay. Even if two banks, let's say, remain the same, they'll keep on competing for those excellent names that are, credit-worthy and very strong. But we've seen also the reaction from the Chinese lessors, they're competing also for those names, but they also opening now the span, towards, let's say, the smaller size owners. This changes. This is very dynamic. In all those years and for decades, we've seen this being always very dynamic. And it's healthy. It's healthy. There should be, this healthy competition. Not every size fits all, and it's always a case by case. First and foremost, it has to match your philosophy. It's not always about the pricing. It's the philosophies and that have to match between a bank and an owner. Sharing a common vision and being there for the long term. You might get a fantastic deal from a bank, but it's very transactional. So you might find yourself, let's say, a year down the road with very cheap pricing, however, nowhere else to go, and being locked in that sense. Yeah. So it's pricing is only one element.
Let me ask the people who are on the other side, in theory, are you concerned about this? Have you noticed this? That the banks have lowered the pricing and try to offer higher leverage in order to compete against the Chinese leasing houses?
Yes, we agree. Like the compete is heresy, but also I noticed the other side. Some of the European banks even set up particular teams to help their clients to do the finance deals, to bridge their clients to Chinese leasing firms. I think, and even the team compete with their own bank loan products. I think this is good things for us. We have corporations, we have competitions, so that's good for ship owners. I don't think that's just kind of just a purely pricing war or some of these things. So I think we maybe provide a better structure or better service or more sets to our clients' demands. That's our efforts.
Because I assume the flexibility that you have is an asset compared to the Western banks, which can only provide a particular structure. You are more flexible. You can offer more solutions in terms of profile. Am I right?
Because Greek market is a huge market.
Yeah.
So in 2018, Greek owners acquired around, I think the number may be around 290 vessels. And also they spend out just maybe around $5.5 billion on all of these S&P and the new building orders. So this is a huge demand. So I think we need to fill up this gap between the finance and the demand.
Mr. Chid, do you want to comment?
Yeah, I believe for our leasing, we never say we provide very cheap money to the clients, but considering the tenors and the leverage, I must say we always provide the most reasonable structure to our clients.
Thank you. Culturally, the Greeks and the Chinese are quite close. They value long-term relationships. They don't want, some of them, of course, are opportunistic, but they still value the long-term relationship. It's something that we have similar in our cultures. So I'd like to ask a couple of questions about the future of Chinese leasing, because if this market is to invest, with you, they want to know whether you are here to stay. Do you think that Chinese leasing is going to be here for good? It should be treated as a mainstream financing instrument, or should we continue to see it as alternative financing? Anyone who wants to respond? Jack?
For us, it was never a dilemma. We could see that it would become mainstream very quickly. Family and family values are the core of both cultures, and we see that being appreciated when a company has, let's say, their surname on the seed management company. So these things, are always considered, that the people are putting their own name and their own money into it, and it's always appreciated. Nobody can predict the future, it all depends, and we've seen dynamically sometimes there might be, let's say, more aggressive attitude or a more, let's say, bigger appetite towards finance. Sometimes it's more steady. But definitely we've seen Chinese lessors getting in for the long run. We have not, let's say, seen any warning that it's the other case round. And the very fact that their teams are getting bigger and the focus now is focusing on more traditional names, as we said earlier on, I think that are signs to the opposite, that they're here for the long term and for the long stay. Otherwise, they wouldn't embark on such large scale. Been visiting Athens now every month. We're happy, to accommodate a number of banks every month, arranging for meetings and transactions, and it works very well.
Okay.
Yes, but from our view, we still think we are act as an alternative sources of funding. So compared to our European and US capital market, we still very small market share. So we maybe continue to grow, but we shall cooperate all of the parties during the value chain of the industry. So we are, definitely, as I mentioned, the Greek market is huge. So there's a lot of activities here, and also there's very similar culture between China and Greece. So we appreciate all of our friends here, and yes, definitely Greece, Nick, and all of friends support us a lot. So we always think we are make friends before we doing business. So that's we always just to look at every deal from a very long-term period angle to think about how we do, what we can do. So this is, yes, could be we are stay for a very, very long time here. Thank you.
Mr. Chi, you agree that Chinese leasing is here to stay for the long run?
I believe European is one of the most important market for us, and more than 60% of our shipping finance is in Europe. And of course, Greece is one of the most important shipping country in Europe. So that's the reason why we invite Mr. Wang Changjin to Bocomm Leasing, and he would be in charge of the Greece market in future. We have the office in Hamburg, and we have several marketing people there. Some of them, they would be in charge of a lot of countries, but only for Greek market, we only have one people. Yes, that means we would pay much attention to the Greek market and focus on it.
That's very, very good news, and that brings me to the last question. Because, we're talking about origination of transactions, but these transactions have been structured to last for a number of years, and of course more deals will come. Do you think that at some point it would be wise, and this is not the first time I'm asking this question, but every year is different. Do you think that at some point it would be wise to see proper branches set up in Europe, like we see on the aviation side. In Ireland, most leasing houses have established presence. Do you see this happening in the future? Because there are also practical elements to consider. Time zone difference is a problem. When you're not here, you cannot communicate, face to face with the client. Anyway, do you think that this might happen in the future?
For Bocomm Leasing, we set up our Hamburg office in 2016. The reason is we just want to reduce the distance between us and our clients. So it would be very convenient for us to travel from Hamburg to the whole Europe. And from the first beginning, only myself in the office, but now we have 5 people. And in the near future, we would have more people to join us in our Hamburg office. I just explained we have several people that are in charge of different markets in Europe. And we just hope that in future we could do the business in Europe.
Jack?
Yes, possibly, maybe we can consider to set up a physical office in the future. But I don't think there's a problem because of time difference. It's only 6 hours. I think many our clients, Greek owners, place Lubinos in China to negotiate with Chinese shipyards to obtain funds from a leasing house. There's no problem because of time difference. And also we have dedicated a very particular team to look after our Greek clients. And we think we are taking very good care of our clients here. And so far we have no problem because we have no office here. So I don't think it's a very urgent necessary to set up an office here. But I think shipping always is international business. It's worldwide, and the ship owners always fly over, and the shipping always navigate on the seas. So we have agents everywhere. We have many friends here. We not necessarily present ourselves just physically here. So you can reach for by mail or video chat every time. So we are standing by for 7 plus 24 hours for clients. So that's our promise.
Yeah.
So no problems for time difference.
That's the problem, Jack. I think we work too hard.
Yes.